and it is called Branding and Marketing Yourself. We find that two of the areas that people have the most difficulty with when they go out on their own is how do they differentiate themselves versus all the other providers out there? And especially, how do they quote, and I know this is a dirty word to many of you, but we'll make it an undirty word. How do they sell? How do they build their client base? And so on the 7th, we'll talk about branding and marketing yourself. Then the next week, it's on Monday, because we didn't want to have to compete with Valentine's Day, although Lindsay and I will accept flowers from any of you who would like to send them. But the building your client base will be Monday the 13th. Then on the 21st, we go back to Tuesday, legal jargon. What must you know legally to start out on your own or to grow on your own? And then the last session will be managing your time and money. So I know if you signed up for this workshop, you had the option on the registration form to sign up for all these others. I'd also encourage you to share it with friends, other people in your practice, social media. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so our speakers who you'll hear from, our moderator is Desiree Cavalancia, who got a degree from Tyler, and I'm not going to tell you much in 15. She got a degree from Fox in 17. She owns the Desideria collection, and she'll tell you more about herself in a minute. Then we also have David Feinman, another Fox grad who's owner and CEO of Viral Ideas. And again, everyone will take you through what they're doing in their background as we start the panel. I just want you to see all these very handsome or beautiful shots of everyone. Next up is Young Park, who some of you may know as an adjunct. And she's the founder and owner of Cocktail Culture, and also has another new initiative she's launched, which she will tell you about. Heather Kadar is the founder and managing partner of the Kadar Group. And if any of you are taking the IEI internship course, you have Heather as a professor. And then we have Adam, I always mispronounce your name, Vidiksis? Close?
Close, Vidiksis.
All right. And he does everything in music, and he does it superbly. So that's all I'm going to say about him, and he'll tell you much more in depth. Okay, great. So I do want to switch. Oops. Are we going to do change makers, Lindsay? Okay, I guess not. Oh, yes. Okay, so one other thing I want to mention to you is here's the scan code for this next week's workshop if you are not already registered, and it'll be a great session. And then one other program I want to mention, we do have a university-wide social impact idea competition. Those of you who know me have heard about this. The deadline is tomorrow evening at 11:59. It is a relatively straightforward form that maybe will take you an hour, hour 15 to complete. And we all know that the world and our communities, whether it be here at Temple, Northeast Philadelphia, overall, we have plenty of social issues, plenty of things that we need to make better: poverty, hunger, discrimination, the climate, the mental and emotional state of a lot of our populations. I strongly encourage you to take an hour, hour 15, say what social issues you care about, what are my thoughts that are a little bit new and different to make an impact, and fill out the form. You'll get great feedback from the reviewers, and you could win up to $2,000 in cash. So I strongly encourage you to do that. You need to go to Startup Tree, scan the code, and it's very much straightforward. Okay, so with that, I am going to turn the show, as Ed Sullivan used to say, over to Desiree, who will get everything started. I'm going to put my camera off and mute myself. And Desiree, take it away.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Desiree Cavalancia. I'm the owner of Desideria collection. So what we do is we make custom jewelry and one-of-a-kind jewelry for individual private clients. So at this time, I don't sell to other stores or anything. I just work individually with each customer. And actually, I was doing it all virtually before the pandemic, and we've continued that. And since then, I've opened my showroom that Alan was talking about at the beginning of all of this. So we're slowly working on it. But David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dave Feinman. I am a Fox School alumni, graduated 2015. I own a business called Viral Ideas. We are a media company that focuses on having an unlimited video editing service. And we have a couple suite of services other than that as well, and several other spin-off brands that we've built over the years. But our main business all is in video editing for companies B2B.
All right, awesome. Adam, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Adam Vidiksis. I got my doctorate here from Boyer in 2013. I'm now on the faculty here. So I'm zooming to you from Rock Hall here on campus. I have a couple of different ventures that really two primary ones, one being my work as an independent musician. So that's performing in a number of different ensembles. So like lots of independent contracting type thing through that, as well as writing music for media like films, video games. I write software for audio applications. So that's a lot of working directly with clients, whether they're organizations or one-on-one with a particular artist. And that's all kind of my solo work. And then additionally, I have a organization that I co-founded and am the president of called SPLICE Music. And that has a couple of different components, but we do a lot of educational outreach around electronic music. So that's having workshops where we teach different production techniques and things like this, as well as putting on concerts, festivals. So we've had over 20 different festivals all around the country at this point. Usually that's like a 3-day festival with up to, around 12 concerts included in that festival, and a couple of different other outreach things as far as that goes. So those are kind of the two spheres that I'm working in.
Okay, cool. So kind of music all over the place. That's awesome. All right, John, do you want to go next?
Hello, everybody. My name is Jung, guys. It's like jungle without the LE. So I am a Temple grad. I also teach here now, so that's been cool. I founded Cocktail Culture Co. We are a booking platform for cocktail classes and whiskey tastings, but ultimately we basically do interactive events in alcohol. After I founded Cocktail Culture Co., I came across an idea for live band karaoke. Basically karaoke with a full band, all genre, all decades, no set list, people just tell us what to play. So that's called 5 Minutes of Fame. That one is probably about like 2-3 years behind Cocktail Culture Co. And I think that's pretty much it. Cocktail Culture Co. I've been working on that for about like 7-8 years now. And then 5 Minutes of Fame, a little less than that. We won 2022 Best of Philly for Cocktail Culture Co. this past year by Philly Style Mag. This past year for 5 Minutes of Fame, we just made our debut at the Kimmel Center. So that's been pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, you're killing it. That's awesome.
I'm trying. I just try to have fun.
I mean, it seems like it's working. Heather, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Desiree. Hi, everyone. I am MBA in Strategic Management, 2016. I didn't want to become a business owner. I didn't think it was something I wanted to do. Got out there, learned that I'm a quick learner and I wasn't learning fast enough. So decided to set myself up with a business here. And I learn every day now. Our company does project management, creative project management, and client operations infrastructure. Didn't start off doing that, really started with my brand, knew like what I wanted to create, how I wanted it to feel. So started there and figured out the rest afterwards. But luckily we're at the refinement phase in the business where we actually know what we're doing now. We're 3 years in, and I am also an adjunct professor with the strategic management department, which is very exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Actually, you kind of touched on my next question, which was, can you describe your journey? So do you mind going into that a little bit more?
Yeah, my journey was, so where do you want to learn my journey from? Undergrad or like grad school?
Like what you studied in college?
Yeah, so Penn State undergrad, international politics. I thought I wanted to be an activist. I still want to be an activist. I still am an activist, but from the business perspective and less so standing in front of bulldozers perspective. I believe that true change starts with the private sector. Nothing moves without money, no margin. So that's my fundamental belief is that, in order to create any kind of big change, you need to put your money where your mouth is to make things move. So was at the NAACP and nonprofit, realized that we were, partners with with banking institutions that actually were the perpetrators of underbanked communities and needed to understand why, and why is business, right? So I went to business school, knew that I needed this chunk of knowledge, graduated, worked for the city of Philadelphia in their commerce department at the intersection of business and government, left there for La Colombe, worked under the CEO of La Colombe, Todd Carmichael. He's no longer the CEO, but he was a CEO and founder, and learned everything I needed to learn to know that I needed to work for myself. So that's what got me here. Involved with Temple. Oh my gosh, like my time in my master's program kept me glued to this school. So here I am again, working with the Entrepreneurship Institute.
Okay, awesome. So it was kind of like the circumstances that you were falling into that led you to where you are.
Yeah, I think part of it was I had 50% options and choices, but the other half,
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so Adam, you're kind of all over the board. Can you talk about your journey a little bit and what you intended to do when you first started?
Sure. So I really started actually embarking on this path when I was 16. I had always studied music, but I, was working part-time jobs and knew I wanted to be a professional musician, and it was like, I should just go ahead and start doing that now. And, it's better to make money playing the drums, than to work at fast food or something like that if I can make it. And so I really committed myself to, to trying to put as much time as I could into even auditioning and getting out there and gigging, even before, I was out of high school. And I did land some things then, which was really great. And I could talk about some of that, but really that just kind of piggybacked. It was kept building on those types of things. So for my independent work as an artist and building a business around that, it started with performing, and I was more and more interested in composing. So I was writing some little things, and then more people were asking me. So it was kind of like I was able to start to get into that side of it as a business and not just as artistic, kind of fun dabbling or whatever. Gradually, because I was already had, it's kind of solidifying this aspect of what I was doing in performance. And I was paying the rent on that, and then I could kind of go into something else. as I got more and more interested in how technology interfaces with all aspects of music, as we all know, like computers are in everything. And it was really a good idea considering how we all now like have music making devices in our pockets, and audio is a big part of everything we do, even non-musical applications. We're dealing with music. And we don't really think about that all the time. You know, it kind of becomes the background noise for our lives. But by, you know, learning to code and getting into that kind of thing, which was all at first self-taught, I later like studied it in graduate school, but, you know, just even those initial forays was like, I'm interested in this, you know, I want to do it and just get at it. Right. So it's really about, for at least me, kind of I always talk to my students about this, you know, it's sort of like you think, oh, I'd like to do that. And then it's not like, oh, let me go through this whole thing. Once I get all the blessings and whatever, I'm going to finally be able to say, I am this thing. You know, you have to work hard and you have to be serious about it, you know, obviously, but you can also get in there right away, and, you know, get things built. So that's kind of, you know, and then also like I did follow up with formal education as well. So like once I was like, oh, I'm making money on this and I'm getting a lot of requests, like I should actually like really take some time to meet with an expert and like have them really teach me, you know, and really know what I'm doing at the highest level that I can achieve. So similar to what Heather was saying, it was sort of like, oh, you know, I should get in on this now. Like, this is working out, but like, let me take it to the next level by getting formal education, you know, at a school. So like I went to Drew University for my undergrad and NYU for my master's. And then of course for Temple for my doctorate. So that's kind of how it all built up.
Cool. So that's kind of from an artist standpoint, because I'm an artist as well, like we're taught to kind of jump right in. We're taught the lean startup method, just inherently. They don't label it that, but that's what we're taught. And they teach us to put a little bit out there and see kind of what people think of it and readjust accordingly. But what about you, David?
Yeah, so I actually, very similar to Adam, I got started when I was younger. I started my first business when I was 16. And I sort of kind of fell into entrepreneurship by accident. And the original business was actually in a totally different industry. It was in the endurance sports industry. So at first I had a half marathon and eventually started a company called the Zombie Run, which was a nationally touring 5K race. So it toured around in 16 cities throughout the country. And I actually ended
I
up
have
selling
friends
that
who
business.
did that.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were in FDR Park in Philadelphia. And we actually had one of the Mummers DJs come DJ. So it was like a very Philadelphia story from the start with it. And we ended up selling that business. And after I sold it, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I was kind of in a place where I'm like, okay, I don't want to start another business because, you know, as I'm sure anyone here was up on this panel who started a company knows it's a lot of work and it's a lot of long hours and it's a lot of, you know, sometimes at first not knowing where your next check's going to come from. So I was interviewing at a couple places to go work somewhere, and I ended up getting a couple calls from people that wanted to know how we built the Zombie Run, how we grew it so fast. And we ended up getting a call from a pretty prominent client in Silicon Valley who ended up signing with us for our first engagement to build their business using video. And a lot of people, I think the myth is you need a lot of money to start a company, but especially when you're getting started, like you don't need as much as you think. We actually started the business with our own capital. We only started with $250, and we started with just a client that gave us a $9,000 advance. So, you know, we didn't know back then, but like you can ask clients for money up front, and a lot of times they'll just give it to you. So we did that, and we ended up getting money up front and used that as working capital to start the business. That was actually while I was at Fox School of Business. I started the business actually right out of the IEI lab. So I was sitting, I don't know if it's still there or whether they moved. It sounds like they moved it, but there was like a big conference room in the back, and we would all go back there and like work on our businesses.
David, it
So
was
started back there.
It was
What?
Compared to what we have now, it was like trash. You got to come
Really?
back. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It used to just be like a conference room, and like
Oh, I
everyone
know.
would
There
just
was
go
a
work on their
conference room in the
businesses.
lab, right? The lab was like more
Yeah.
square. Yeah. No, we've got like 8,000 square feet now. Yeah. Come on.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to come
Come on
check that
over.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick,
Um,
of all the panelists, just real quick, raise your hand if you started your business in school. So where all of you guys are right now listening.
Yeah.
We all started then. So continue.
I definitely got my
Um,
foundation here for sure. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely helps having that network and support. But just to kind of round it out, like you started that about 8 years ago at Temple, and we now have a 10-person company, and we all we do all day is create videos for companies. It's a lot of fun, and we also have an entertainment division called Animeta. We're currently working on producing a project for Paramount right now.
Wow, that's awesome. So quite the journey for everyone, really. Jung, would you like to tell yours? And then kind of separate the rest of the questions for everyone.
Okay. Well, I guess I could talk about my journey in a few different ways. The first thing I thought about when I saw that question in our email, guys, was that the first 3 years I worked for free. I worked for nothing. So I mean, reason why, you know, I am where I am now is because I just kept going with it. I talk about this all the time, but like I remember when I was in college and started thinking about this and didn't know how to approach it, eventually made like, you know, a description for the service, and then like somebody decided to give me money. And I was surprised, you know?
Okay, can you explain to everyone why, like how you ended up doing it for free? Because we all I mean, I fell into that. I've fallen into that many times. I'm sure some other panelists have fallen into that as well. Like, kind of explain how you ended up.
Yeah, I mean,
Mistakes that you wouldn't make again.
you know, I guess it just really depends on what I know we have a bunch of different freelancers here, and I guess it depends on like what everyone's doing, what they're selling. But in my scenario, you know, for cocktail culture, I had bartender instructors. So like, you know, these guys would come out, like I needed them to get paid. I needed to pay for the tools, I needed to pay for the produce, you know, I needed to pay for the marketing and everything else before I get paid. At that time, I was still bartending, still had some like marketing, freelancing clients, you know, still had a lot of things going on the side. So if anyone's looking to start a business or start making their own money and they still want to generate some sort of a revenue or consistent revenue, like you want to make sure you have really good time management skills.
Yeah, would you like to jump right into, for anyone starting a business, what your one piece of advice would be? Is that it?
One piece of advice, if they're looking to start a business, don't worry about things being perfect. Because if you stress about things being perfect, you will drive yourself nuts. And trust me, like, I mean, I have massive OCD. I'm a total perfectionist, overachiever, you know? But you really actually want to focus on progress. And once you start focusing on progress and traction, then a lot of stress gets lifted off your shoulders. I think that's my one piece of advice.
Yeah, actually, that was mine as well. Mine is kind of, no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to pull the trigger for you. No one's going to force you to do it. So you just eventually need to put yourself out there. And that's the scariest part, is starting. Any advice from our other panelists? Adam?
I mean, yeah, it was a similar thing, just to do it at sooner rather than later, because all of that kind of growth that happens takes time, and you know, the longer you wait, the longer it's gonna reach the kind of growth potential that you hope that will. So yeah, just get going right now. If you have an idea or think of an idea or whatever, what do you like to do, and just get it out there.
Okay, so David, how did you know that working for yourself was the right move? Because I know a lot of freelancers aren't really sure if that's for them, and we all understand here because we all were in that position. It's a tough decision to make, but what helped you make that decision?
I think for me, it was actually the moment I realized I was going to be an entrepreneur the rest of my life was when I was interviewing out of school. I was actually interviewing with Google out of school, and I was on the final interview, and it was set to be like a really nice salary out of school, working out in California. It was going to be great. And I got to the last interview and I'm like meeting the team. I'm like, this is not creative. I want to make something out of nothing. Like, I don't want to work for a big company, and I don't want to do that. So it really was that just kind of solidified, like, I'd already started the business and I was already working on it, but like, I wasn't sure if I was ready to go all in on it. But that moment for me was like, okay, you can't be in that room. You have to do your own thing. And that kind of was a big turning point for me.
Yeah, I know as an artist, it's really hard to do art under someone else.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that had something to do with your situation. For me, I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I told my dad when I was like 4 years old that I wanted to be the boss when I grew up. And that was always something that was important to me. But like I said, I'm creative and I trust my creativity, and I don't like to be told where to go with it. So I knew from day one, after working for someone else, honestly, after designing under someone else, I knew that no matter the challenges, it was worth it for me to have that flexibility. And also, work schedule flexibility was huge for me. I like to be outside during the day. When it's nice out, I want to be able to go out and enjoy the sun and work at night if I want. And that was a big driving force when I decided to go off on my own.
I can relate to that, Desiree. I usually am based in right outside Philly in Conshohocken, but I'm actually in Arizona for the month now because I can work from home, and it doesn't really matter. And hopefully I'll find a way to sneak into the Eagles Super Bowl, but tickets cost a small part of your soul to get in. So
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Heather, what about you?
I remember, so I had a boss that was extremely entrepreneurial and definitely, encouraged and instilled the confidence to go off on my own. But also was a boss that that was in a system, right? And so they had their own limitations. So I guess when you are in a larger corporate environment or an environment that's becoming more corporate, you face all these limitations. So your entrepreneurial spirit kind of gets put in this bubble. And so from seeing that and feeling the stress of being in that environment, I knew that I could feel that stress for myself and work 24/7 instead of 9 to 5. I'm being very facetious here, but in the end, I'd rather be stressed out for myself, and I had to make that decision, than for anyone else, and believe that I could accomplish something on my own, and feel those little sweet nuggets of joy when I have accomplished, sealing down contracts and, managing a team properly. I think now, my goal before was to transfer the stress responsibility, and that's now transferred. My goal now is to be a really good boss, and be self-aware and to grow more leaders, because I feel like business needs it, and we need honest leadership as well. So I want people to just be themselves in my team.
Yeah, that's awesome. John, what really pushed you to go off on your own? And what made you know that you could do it?
I think in the beginning, I wasn't really necessarily trying to build a business. It just kind of came in layers, where I had an idea, put in the idea competition at Temple, didn't win, but I got a lot of feedback. Then I just took that feedback, and the next step was, well, you know what, let me try to do the Be Your Own Boss Bowl and get free feedback again, because it's free. So after that, that's how we got our first 5,000. And because of Temple, the competition, the accelerator, and all, the deadlines and the resources that they gave me, just continue to build that idea. Even when I didn't make it the first year or the second year or the third year as a full-time business or paying myself, I still kept it going, because I believed that it was a great offering and I wanted to continue to build it. So it's not that I didn't go, I want to start a business. It wasn't necessarily it. I was working as a bartender at that time, and then I came across the idea and just kind of built everything like layers.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's important to notice that all of us have very different opinions and different ways of getting there, but we all got to the same place. So it doesn't really matter why you're doing it. If whatever brings you to running your own business, that's what you should be doing if you feel the draw. Okay, so The next question we have is, what is the single biggest challenge you've seen freelancers have, and how did they handle or overcome this? Does anyone want to jump in first here?
Can I jump in? So I work with businesses, founders usually, and the biggest thing I see is they're not visualizing their projects. So project management, I didn't answer that other question before about what would I recommend. After you start, get your ideas on a project management software so you can grow them really fast. I use project management to grow. And a lot of times when we are founders, we're probably type A people who want to get things done. Even if you're type B and you're a founder, you need to get things done. And the thing I see is stress about the thing. And I know that this person's always moving. I think sometimes the secondary issue there is that they're not visualizing what they're actually doing. And I think that that'll help with a lot of the stress of managing your workflows.
I think what I've seen is two things, both of which I'm super passionate about. Is you have to understand why someone is buying from you when you're positioning yourself against them. I think that's super key. And understanding that whatever you're doing is solving some sort of problem for them, and what you charge and what they value at it, the space in between is what they're getting. So you want to make sure that you understand that really deeply when you go into price something. And also understand, I think the biggest mistake that people make is they charge way too little. Like you have to factor in a lot of things that you don't think about when you're an employee. Like let's say you're an individual contributor as a freelancer, like that, let's say you make $1,000, right? Out the gate, 40% is gone in taxes. So now you're down to $600. So how do you work with 600 instead of 1,000? So you really have to like look at these things when you're pricing yourself, because the government's your first business partner. They're going to take a nice chunk of money. And then you have to think about what's left for yourself. Well, now you got to pay your healthcare because no one else is paying that for you. You have to make sure you're paying your rent. You got to feed yourself, all this stuff. So you got to make sure you're charging for what you're worth to survive, but also you really got to think about what I'm doing worth to the business and factor in some value prop on that. And then once you get really good at it and you could do it a million times over and over again in your sleep, you're not really charging for time, you're charging for value. So I think that's the biggest thing that I would suggest to people.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. I always say, don't listen to your friends, because your friends will have 1,000 opinions. Like I make jewelry, for instance. So everybody, as you can imagine, all my friends say, why don't you make something I can afford? Because you're not my target market. Like, get out of here, you know? What about you, Jung?
Sorry, guys, my internet's going in and out. Hold on 1 second.
If you want, we can go to Adam next.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say I really agree with both what David and Heather said, and in particular about project management software. I actually had a point in the growth of my business that I was like floundering because I wasn't doing exactly what they're talking about. And once I got it together, like I was able to like actually plan growth and be more effective with my time and resources in a way that when I was just sort of like going willy-nilly, I was just sort of floundering, and it was really inefficient. But one thing I'll add to this great list is closing the iteration loop on feedback. So oftentimes people don't think about that aspect of it. And I have found it to be really useful to try to tighten that feedback loop as quickly as possible, because that's how you learn. I always really admired stand-up comedy for this. And, the fact that, you get instant feedback, people will heckle you, people will laugh, and in the performing arts, like it's not as much. People clap politely when they don't like it. So there's not that, you're rarely going to get someone be like, get off the stage, to a musician. It can happen. But whether it's with like clients, when I'm doing stuff for film, for video games, finding out like all of the different feedback loops. Am I reaching my audience? Am I, how successful am I with with this particular client and meeting their needs, when I'm doing like work for hire stuff, you know, in all of these cases, trying to close down that, you know, even with like the festivals that I run and things like this, you know, what did people like? What did people not like? And trying to find out as quickly as possible what was successful, what you should continue to invest in, and what you need to change. And the quicker you can close that iteration loop, the quicker you're going to grow, because you can then implement those changes as quickly as possible.
Do you have any suggestions of steps to close that loop? Like, for any, I know all of our businesses are very different, but
yeah, it is tough. I mean, to like come up with one answer that's going to fit like everyone's business solutions, because they are so different. But I would say, I mean, at some really, you know, at the end of the day, you're trying to ask a person or maybe a really, really large group of people what their opinion is, and, you know, what was successful. Sometimes, I mean, like, obviously sales itself is like a great metric of like feedback. You know, it's like, this sold, this didn't sell, you know, why isn't this one selling? You know, what does it need? Does it just need more like actual marketing behind it? You know, like for me, that would be like my catalog of works. So, you know, some just are like, you know, flying off the shelves, and I'm like, this one is so awesome, why is it not selling? And you just said, you know what I mean, you maybe it needs some more love. Like, maybe it's actually, you know, this one has word of mouth now and is just going on its own, and this one, like, if it could reach people, would also, that would happen. Or maybe not, and maybe I just think it's great and everyone else thinks it's things, or whatever, you know, just not as successful. So what the one thing is, like, how can you find out what people think? So even if they bought a ticket, would they like to buy a ticket again? Are they going to sign up for a mailing list? Can you send some kind of survey when it's a large group, right? Immediately afterwards? Obviously not everyone's going to fill it out, but those that do are often the most passionate on the positive and negative side. You know, I oftentimes will try to, because also for me, it's a lot of like building relationships with clients over like a long time. And I have like a lot of coffees and lunches and whatever that are not for any particular reason, just to stay, you know, in that director's, you know, kind of mind, you know, so the next time they're working on a film, they're going to think of me for the music or whatever it is. But so it's like investing in the business, but not necessarily always like a meeting that right now is going to have. So that's part of networking. But those are opportunities also when you're working with clients directly to, like, you know, kind of get their feedback, you know, when you're you've had a few cocktails, like you go to one of Jung's events, and then you're, you know, and you can kind of say like, oh, you know, what did you think of on this? And whatever you can do to try to get that feedback as quickly as you can to iterate for the next project is you're gonna grow much faster.
Yeah, I think the key is don't be afraid to ask. And I also use social media. Like, I have people vote on my designs every morning, and it keeps me relevant, and people like to vote. They like clicking things. Like, it really does make a difference.
That's a great idea. I envy that. It would be hard to do for me. I've thought about it though, because I always loved the BuzzFeed model, right? Like, you make two things in like slightly different variations and see which one goes more, you know, viral or whatever. It's like, but harder to do that for music. I don't know. You're like, which phrase do you like better? You know, which drum lick works for you? You know, it's just like people don't tend to want to care about that, at least in my field. But
yeah, no, I understand that. And Jung, did you want to jump in? Is your internet working?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my Zoom was being wonky. And Desiree, I'm pretty sure I heard you say, it was cutting in and out, but you were talking about the biggest challenges that people go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with a lot of freelancers, I see people that are really great at their particular skills, whether it be in like music, it be in art, you know, marketing, whatever it is, but they're really good at the specific skills. And then everything else outside of that, charging for it, marketing those services and building a business, those skills end up being a really big learning curve. So, you know, pricing, marketing, and I think out of all those things, the biggest lesson that I learned is that money always comes first, or collecting money. So, I like to think I'm more of a creative person. So, you know, like, I'll obsess like that. Like, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. I don't like the way this looks. That looks. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, I could keep making revisions of the website, and I could keep making revisions of, you know, all these different reels. But the most important thing to do is, if somebody reached out to you, you need to get back to them first.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Did I miss anybody for advice? I know I missed Heather initially. She jumped back in. David, did I miss you or no? Did I get you?
Oh, we're good.
All right, cool. So for audience members who already have a business, but want to jumpstart it and kind of move themselves up to the next level, which I know was really hard for me and I'm sure was really hard for you guys. What advice do you have for them? My advice is truly just to put yourself out there. Like I ask people if I can do their engagement rings. I don't care if it's pushy. Like, hi, I'm Desiree. It's nice to meet you. Oh, your rings are beautiful. Great. I would love to make yours when the time comes. Think of me. You know, like it's putting yourself out there, putting yourself on social media and not being shy and just being honest about who you are. That is the best way. Personally, for me, that was the best way to get to the next level and to just do the creative things, even if I don't think that maybe they're gonna work or sell as well. If I have the creative things out there, that brings people back to me. All right, who wants to jump in next here? David?
Sure, I can go. Okay, so I would say, you know, as we've grown our business, and as we've grown our business, one thing I've noticed is we haven't grown linearly. We've grown more like a step function. So we've grown up one level, we've hit a plateau, and we'll get stuck there for a while. And then we grow up another level, and then we get stuck there for a while, and then we have to go to another level. So right now we're stuck around the million two mark for our business. And you know, our goal is to take it this year from that level to the next level, which would probably be the $2 to $3 million marker. And the one thing that we've been thinking a lot about is increasing our capacity to do the work. So it becomes almost a chicken and egg problem, because what do we have first? Do we have the capacity first, or do we have the clients to actually fulfill that work? So we're constantly in a dance of, do we get clients first, or do we grow our team and grow our capacity first so that clients can backfill that? And I don't think I have the right answer for it, to be honest with you. I think like the conventional business wisdom would tell you, hey, you know, build it and they would come. But like as a small business owner, there's only so much risk you could take on to hire the talent to be sitting empty and not working on anything before you step up to the next function. So that's why we've kind of seen it be like a real step function.
Mm-hmm.
We get to a point of plateau. We grow a little bit with our current customers, and then you know we kind of move on to the next marker. So that's how we've thought about growth in our organization.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but mine was similar. I definitely step and even drop a little bit and then jump up again.
Yeah.
Drop a little bit.
The drops are very discouraging, because once you step up, you take on more overhead, and then when you drop, you're like, oh wow, this is gonna really suck if I drop much further. Like,
where is everybody? Come on.
Yeah.
Heather, what about you?
Challenges?
Piece of advice for ways for people to move themselves to the next level.
Oh, recognize when you need help. You know, when you become aware of a weakness, finding ways to solve for that, right? Not trying to fight against it, right? You have to acknowledge it and know that, you know, you have to know when you need help. And I think the next skill is finding that help, like finding that and nurturing that in someone, so they can help you achieve that next level of growth for your business and maybe yourself.
Yeah, mentors are really helpful for that. And even just talking to other people in the business, it's nice to get out there. And like right now I host like a small creative female business owner support group, and we get together like once every 2 months and just talk smack about our situation. And it's not networking, it's just being honest and unloading and noticing that we're all on the same level. Adam, what about you? Any advice for moving to the next level? You've kind of jumped a bunch of levels, so.
Yeah, I think so. For me, like I don't have like employees, And it would, so basically I'm working with people that I'm contracting, but, you know, regularly contracting. So for me, the challenge was, well, twofold. And so growth is usually this kind of thing that David was talking about with clients, and for me, not having necessarily employees, but having the like infrastructure to put that together. So whenever I'm, so on the one side, I'm always, whenever I'm traveling around, I finally kind of learned to do this well. I'm going to play a gig in a particular place. Like I'm going to LA next month. I will always be setting up opportunities to meet with people, either new people or continuing relationships that have no direct immediate purpose, right? I'm just like keeping clients, keeping those contacts fresh. Like, you know, what are you up to lately? What project are you working on? You know, it's just something that comes up while you're having lunch, right? And, you know, when hopefully they like me, you know, hang out with me too, but they know I'm there to talk to them as a composer and they're there as a filmmaker, you know what I mean? And it's not like, you know, I just am curious how, you know, what's up with their dog or whatever, you know what I mean? And, you know, so that's okay. And I think I was reluctant to do those kinds of things at first, I think, because it felt like, oh, it's like a weird pretense that you're like, I don't know, reaching out to people, sometimes even people I don't know, and being like, you know, I love your work. I'd like to, you know, I'm in town, let's get coffee or whatever. That people will be like, oh, they're only doing it for the business side of this. And it's like, well, yeah, but they need me too, or people like me anyway. You know what I mean? So knowing that, you know, that people are going to want to do that, because it's like, there's going to be a point, maybe they have a bunch of composers that I work with all the time. And then maybe they're going to have a project and they're all booked. And then they're like, oh God, what do I do? Oh, I met with that guy. He was cool. Let's do it. So you never know when those opportunities are going to come up. So it's worth just continuing to sow those seeds. On the other side, I've been in situations where I've struggled with growth because I'm seeking opportunities and more are coming in, and I have a regular network of people that I reach out to for all the different phases of production that I need to go through. And although in the beginning I was doing all of those phases myself, and it's good to have that kind of knowledge as an artist, it got to a point where if I was going to do every stage of that myself, I would be stuck with how many I could do. So what can I offload is the question. But then also as that goes up, it's like, so I have some editors, or I have some, you know, all the different people that are part of the, you know, engravers, et cetera, that would be part of the production process in music. But, you know, then it's like, well, I only have 1 or 2 engravers and I can't scale up if I don't know more engravers. So kind of like finding what your possible, like trying to foresee, like, you know, one great exercise is like, if I had double the amount of work that I had now, where would I have like these like choke points? Like, where would I get stuck? It's like, I don't know anybody else that can do this at the level that I want. You know what I mean? That's another thing too. As an artist, I'm like going to trust every sound editor to do my work or whatever. So like reaching out and then developing those relationships in advance is great. It's really good. Like for Dave, yes, like kind of maybe hire somebody, maybe there's contractor things that you could do, but whatever, like he's kind of talking about how you have to have employees lined up. For me, it's a little bit easier because I can really develop that relationship and then have them in, you know, kind of in the queue when things finally do become realized. So,
Yeah, that is very important, keeping your network fresh. And I actually go to SoulCycle for this because my clients are there. People who spend money are there. So that's where I put myself. And I try to go to social clubs that wealthy people are at. And I just put myself around these people, just hoping that I can jump up to the next level. Because one job, one $25,000 engagement ring is a month of rent for me. So perfect. If I can get 4 of those, that makes a pretty big difference. Jung, do you have any advice on getting to the next level?
Getting to the next level, I feel like one of my big learning curves was learning how to delegate. Exactly what Adam said. So, you know, when you start growing and you get other people involved and you start giving some of your duties and responsibilities away, and then there's also, you have this crazy expectation that people are going to provide as much quality and care as you do. They really don't. You know, I mean, you're lucky if you find people like that. I mean, you will find people like that, but they're very rare and they're really special people. but learning how to delegate. So first of all, when you start getting busy, start recording. Like even if you're doing something on your laptop, like put yourself on Zoom. No one else has to be on Zoom with you. Record it on the cloud. Okay, take that video, put it up on Dropbox, and leave it for training records. Building training records and eventually like being able to explain tasks and delegating is a really big deal.
Yeah, that was definitely really tough for me. And it's really hard to have someone else working for you and to know that it's your name going on it, especially like we've all said as artists and creatives, like that's really, really tough to do and to trust people with. Does anyone have any final thoughts of advice? I know we have a few minutes left. Alan, do we have time to do another question or no?
Yeah, if we could do one more and then by like 5 after, and then we'll go into breakout rooms.
Can I
Okay.
just say, I'm gonna Zoom all my stuff now, Jung. That's like a brilliant idea. I'm gonna make recordings of all of these things. Like that's so smart.
Yeah, and especially for your music stuff, it's like all on the computer. It's right there. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay, so I think one important thing, Heather, I'm going to throw it to you. So biggest advantage and disadvantage of working for yourself? Or focus on one if you can't decide.
I think one thing that we don't ever talk about or see when you start a business is the impact of familial support on like the building of your company. So like, I chose to build my company very slow and methodical, and I make mistakes and then I correct for them. But I wouldn't have been able to do that under survival mode. And I think, there are entrepreneurs that are on survival mode, and I've been on survival mode before, right? Like, and you get on survival mode all the time because there's like an extraordinary amount of pressure on you, and, you're scared of failing. No one wants to fail. Question was what again? Did I say, was I going down the right?
No, yeah, you're right. I was asking the biggest advantages and disadvantages.
Oh, biggest advantage was familial support.
Yeah.
And then I have a network full of friends that are entrepreneurs. So a bunch of people who have been there and they're still going, and I want to go in the same direction. And that's super important. So the people, and the funding that some of the family people bring is super important. Disadvantages to being an entrepreneur. I don't believe in disadvantages. No, I'm kidding. It's money. It's always money. I would just go right back to money. Like, I may not have the same access to capital as like a competitor, right? But I'm still building, and I just have to be patient. I just want to go, I think I bring up money because money makes things go fast, right? So if you don't have the money, then you're not going as fast as you want to, but you have to build the thing carefully so you don't royally mess up and you're undoing something that'll cost you more money. So I think the disadvantage is time right now for me. I want to go faster, but we have to do this thing thoughtfully and carefully and with quality. And so I have to find patience right now.
Yeah. Patience is a pretty big negative for me.
Yeah.
I'm not very patient. And the uncertainty is, of course, stressful. I think something important to talk about that a lot of people don't is you versus your friends. Like, it's being an entrepreneur kind of separates you from your friends slightly who are in corporate. Everyone's nodding because you guys totally get it. Your friends might be in a different financial spot than you for a little bit. But the advice that I got in business school, and it was the best advice I received, was live how others won't so you can live how others can't. And that has been what I've been doing, and it's been working out. So any other positives and negatives from the panel?
Well, I can give a couple. Desiree, I loved your point about kind of that self-comparison. When I first started out, candidly, me and my business partner took $500 a month in salary, right? So like, I had friends that were coming out of school making like 10 times that. And it was just like, well, like, I guess I'm not going out with you guys for a while. So
J's.
yeah, but you know, it's paid off in the end, but like that was a little bit. But I would say being able to create your own destiny is huge. You know, being able to you know, pave the path for yourself and take that thing that's in your head and create it and put that out in the world and then have someone else enjoy it is something that's incredibly fulfilling. Disadvantages, I would say, you know, is you definitely have to learn how to manage risk really well. Like for us last year, we had a pretty unfortunate event where a partner of ours stole quite a bit of money from us. It was really rough, both financially and mentally, dealing with it. So, you know, you kind of had to, you know, it kind of taught me a new level of mental toughness, and it taught me a new level of, you know, how to go into myself more, you know, through that event. So I think, you know, even though that was a disadvantage, it became an advantage. But I think learning how to manage those risks and learning how to like protect yourself in business is super important as well.
Yeah, keeping good mental health is pretty tough, but important.
Yeah.
Jung and Adam, did you give your positives and negatives?
Maybe I can go and then we can leave Jung the last word. For me, the positives, as Desiree, you mentioned, is definitely creative control. Like I always wanted to do what I love and make a living doing what I love. And I've found that every turn that I've like pivoted in that business was to not turn what I love into something that just makes me money and actually I don't love it anymore, because there's certain things I want to do in music and there's other things that I don't. And other people want to do those things, but I don't, you know. So I wanted to stick with the things that I really enjoy and find a way to like follow that kind of dream of like every day I wake up and I do this thing that I love and I'm making a living doing it. And it's easy to like get it contorted, and then it's like, oh, I love music so much and now I've just sort of like turned it into this career and I don't like it, you know, I don't like this thing that I'm doing anymore. So that having that creative control is definitely the number one for me, and why I've made the choices oftentimes, even when they've been a little tough, to figure out, well, how can I still do this and solve it this way? For me, and I think this, you hear this a lot, the biggest downside has been, although a lot of the downsides mentioned are also there, but the biggest one is like the work-life balance thing. Like when you're your own boss and when, you know, and it's not even because you have to, it's because you love it. And it's like, oh, a little more time in this. And like Jung was saying about like, I'll spend a little more time working on this video or whatever, you know, this reel or this website, you know, because you love it. Like you can easily do it too much, you know. And like, I know for me, having a family was important. I have 2 kids, a wife, and, you know, like brothers and sisters and my mom and dad, you know, like all of these things and these people that are so important to me. And it's very easy to just be like, oh, I'm going to work on a Friday night, or I'm going to, you know, sometimes I have to, because like gigs are on Friday nights, but you know what I mean? Not like a gig or something like this. It's like, I'm just like tweaking more, right? Like,
yeah,
like you got to stop at some point, just turn it off. Don't answer that email, you know, save it for Monday morning, you know, that kind of thing. Obviously, you know, there's some things you got to put out fires and there's emergencies, but I mean, on the regular, you can just let it get out of control. And I have sometimes kind of gone into workaholic mode and need to been like, whoa, you know, like you need to spend time with your kids. Like it never got that bad, but you know, I was like the dad in like, you know, every 80s movie I ever watched. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, my daughter even said at one point, she was just like, there was that time where you were just gone, always working. And I was like, yes, that was the time where I did that for.
Like that was a dark time.
That was a bad 8 months, but
yeah,
you know, and honestly, partly the pandemic was a little bit of a reset on that for me, like to like actually be able to not tour for, you know, a year, which sucked, but was also like, whoa, let's get priorities back in track and see if as I rebuild my like touring schedule and things like that, can I build it in a more like sustainable way for work-life balance. So that's still something I struggle with though.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Pat. John, you want to go?
So we have a lot of similar answers here. Which is great. I mean, I'm all about like building advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Advantages, building a lifestyle that you want. I think Dave used words like, you know, creating your own destiny. right? Really big on doing what you love. I think everyone should build a life that they want, you know, not what your parents say, not what your siblings say, not what your friends say. I always joke that I'll work really hard, but only on really fun things. So, you know, I've made a decision on what kind of work I want to take. And I think that's a journey everyone's going to go through. Negatives of being your own boss, definitely the work and life balancing in the beginning, like Adam said. I told myself, and I was that person that I was working like 16, 18 hours a day. You know, I told myself that I'll do what it takes in the beginning. But looking back at what I went through about 7 years ago, what I was doing in the beginning, I was so inefficient at what I was doing because I was just new to it. You know, I'm sure if I did it a second time around, I'll be a heck lot faster. You definitely can't hide from anyone if people get on your nerves or you have a bad day. Your customers, your audience, your contractors, your employees. And I think somebody just talked about this, but you know, when your friends are taking different paths than being like an entrepreneur or a freelancer, if your friends aren't self-revenue generators, they're not going to understand what you're going through. You're taking risk, okay? They don't know what that's like. So sometimes there's like a bit of a clash there. But I think that's it.
Yeah, those are awesome. Thank you, guys. I don't think I have anything else to add. I gave my positives and negatives, but yeah, it's a great idea. I'm so happy I started my own business, truly. I'm sure you guys are too.
Okay, great. Desiree, thank you. David, Adam, Heather, and Jean. We are now going to put, and I don't know, Lindsay, can we put the participants in the breakout groups and then put the panelists in one by one?
I don't think I understand what you mean.
So can we put everyone other than the panelists in like 5 breakout rooms? And once they're there, put one of our panelists to join them?
I can.
That would be great. So everyone, you're going to be in a breakout room. You'll be able to, the groups will be about 6, 7 people per thing. Ask questions, give everyone a chance to ask questions, and you could have some, quote, intimate interaction with these brilliant people. And we'll come back at about 6:25 and just provide the suitable codes and a little more information. Okay? So Lindsay will put you in breakout rooms, and then panelists, you just hang tight, and then we'll put you in. In the meanwhile, while that's happening, again, tell any friends who you think could benefit from this sort of program. Next week, we're talking all about branding. And I think it was David who mentioned, how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else that's out there? It's the most important thing, whether you're an artist, a musician, marketing consultant, a tutor, whatever you're doing, or an entertainment provider such as Young. So that'll be very worthwhile. And then the week after that is going to be how to build your client base. I also, just while we're waiting, want to call out Carl Krause, who has been with us on this program since it started 6 years ago. Oh. And Carl is the director of Temple's SBDC. So anyone with an established, successful business who wants some help should go see Carl. And he also, you're going to correct me, Carl, but you have a son who is a...
Yeah, I have a son who's a bass player out in LA, so I was going to try to hook him and Adam up together. Yeah, he's a graduate of of Boyer and also of USC's Thornton School out in LA, and he never came home. So, but he's doing well out there. And yes, while he was at Temple, much like Adam, he was out playing and making his rent and his board, which made us very happy. But I also worked with him to put together a financial management system for his business, which was him playing and him setting up gigs and having to pay other people from the pot that they get paid and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we built that, and I actually use that regularly when I'm working with small businesses and especially solopreneurs, just that same financial management system. So.
Cool. That's awesome. I'd love to meet up with him if we can make that happen.
See, networking in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I can certainly give you guys a handshake and email handshake and get you set up. Sure. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you through somehow. Oh, you're on faculty. I'll get in touch with you.
Alan, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. And so panelists, I guess, don't go anywhere, and then Alan, I don't know. Alan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Since we don't know who's in the breakout groups, I think rooms.
You
Well,
asked us how they were.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You asked us how they were.
Yes.
Very informative, I should say.
Okay, good. Good. Anyone else? Comments? You can unmute yourself. Okay. And just so you know, like for next week's marketing workshop, we'll be spending more time in the breakout rooms. So, because it'll be easier for people to think about how do they define themselves, what are they offering. Oh, okay, so to finish up, if we could go to the next one, please. Okay, so again, the workshop series is truly a cross-university program. So IEI is the lead, SPDC is here with Carl, the Career Center, Tyler, the College of Engineering, College of Liberal Arts, and Fox and Klein. So we appreciate everyone's support and participation. Okay, so again, next week, defining you, branding and marketing yourself. If you just came back, I had mentioned that we will spend about half of next week's session in the breakout rooms. So you could all work with your individual mentor in the room on how to define yourself and the value you're providing and how you're different from the competition. So that's next Tuesday, same Bat channel for those of you who remember Batman, which is probably Carl and I, and same time. Okay, again, a reminder, Changemaker Challenge. Do something, be the difference. It'll take you an hour, hour 15. You have a chance to win up to $2,000 and get a lot of great feedback. Next program is the granddaddy and grandmommy of them all. Is a 25th anniversary of the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. Whereas the idea competition in the fall and the Changemaker Challenge tomorrow are very preliminary ideas, for the Be Your Own Boss Bowl is for a bit more advanced ideas, where you're going to have to put together financials, be part of a team. The great part is there's well over $100,000 in cash and service prizes. And I'm actually working with a couple ex-students who I think won first or second prize in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. And they are still working with lawyers and accountants whose services they won as part of their award in Be Your Own Boss Bowl. It is a great, great program. And the first Kickoff workshop for that is February 8th at 5 p.m. How to win the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. And you'll hear from some previous winners from all different colleges within Temple, and they'll help you navigate that whole process. Next up, a opportunity for any of you who write and are interested in business reporting. So the Klein School is offering 20,000 per year scholarships for students interested in pursuing a Master's of Journalism, okay, which is a 1-year 30-credit course. And if you are interested, contact George Miller, who is part of our committee that puts this program together. And there is his email. Great program. George is a great guy, and who couldn't use $20,000 for a master's in journalism? Okay. And next, we always try to improve what we offer. I would ask you to scan this QR code and fill out a quick survey and give us feedback, and also let us know what other events and programs that you might like. And we would be glad to